Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. It's May 9th, and welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we have an exciting night. We'll be celebrating our 500th guest. Not our 500th interview, but our 500th individual guests that we've had on this show since we started it in July of 2020. So that's a milestone that we're very excited about. Actually, the last guest of the night is our 500th guest, and we're going to give her a special gift. Well, normally when we reach a milestone, whoever it is, and it's totally random because however it falls, we give them a special gift. So we're going to be doing that. And we're also very excited about next week because that's when we have our Black Authors Matter TV award show. And we'll be giving away awards in 15 categories based on your votes. And if you haven't had a chance to go look at our promo video about next week's show, it has all the pictures of the finalists and has a nice update, a summary of everything. So go take a look. It's on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Are we all dressed up and cute again?
Yeah, we do. And we're excited, and all the people who are going to be on are excited too. And I think, the book festival registration is open. The standard registration ends May 31st. After that is late registration and the price goes up. We're close to 80% capacity. So if you want to sign up, please do that. And we have our first guest in the waiting room, but we also have someone else in the waiting room who isn't supposed to be in the waiting room, but I'm going to admit her just because she's there and she should be watching on Facebook, not in the Zoom. So somebody gave her the Zoom link. But anyway, I'm going to bring on our first guest, who is Chandra Sparks Splond. And I'm going to admit Victoria Christopher Murray because she is not supposed to be on the Zoom. I'm going to admit her and let her know that the Zoom is only for guests of the show tonight, but she'll be a guest coming up soon. So if she comes on, we're gonna she logged off. So you didn't realize Chandra Sparks Splond. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And you've been very busy, and you're an author, and you're also an editor, you're a speaker, and then you have a website or a book group, let me see, a blog, what is a platform called Black Fiction Addiction. So you're doing it all. You're covering a lot of different bases. And so first, let's talk about you as an author and the books that you've written. Your latest book is called Secret Weapon.
It is.
So do you have a copy of it with you?
I do.
Okay.
Okay. My latest book, baby.
Okay. And so, yeah, tell us about it.
Well, first, thank you all so much for having me this evening. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the invitation. As you mentioned, Gwen, my name is Chandra Sparks Splond. I'm an author, blogger, editor, and speaker. I have authored 18 books, the latest of which is called Secret Weapon, which is about a 12-year-old boy who has experienced bullying. And as a result, he's moved to a new school to try and start over. But he's finding that he's still dealing with some of the same issues, especially when he lets his friends know that his mom has won tickets for him to meet his favorite basketball player. And since the kids at the new school haven't heard anything about a contest, A whole lot of drama ensues. And essentially the main character has to find what the secret weapon is to his happiness. And it's aside from bullies and everyone out to kind of, steal his joy. So yeah, that's my new book, baby.
So what is the audience for your book? Is it for teens?
It's actually for tweens. So the target
Okay.
audience is ages 9 to 12. The main character in the book is 12 years old. And this is
Okay.
my first book for boys in that age group. So I'm really excited to have a book for them. It's been a long time coming.
Was that a different experience for you to write a book from a boy's perspective?
I can't hear you.
I said, can you hear me now?
I can.
Oh, okay, I was saying, was that a different experience for you to write a book from a boy's perspective?
Well, for that age, it was. I've written a couple of other books for older boys, for teenage boys. But this is something that's been on my heart for a few years, and just trying to get into that mindset, and kind of think about the things that boys that age would do. Like I put a couple of things in there about them kind of being adverse to showers and loving Axe body spray, which I hear is a thing for middle grade boys. So yeah, trying to get into that mindset and actually have it sound like a middle grade boy as opposed to an older woman trying to write like a middle grader. That was a challenge, but hopefully I accomplished it.
Right. The point of view is important in a book, especially based on the target audience. Now, do you have sons?
I do not. No.
Okay. Are you an educator? Like, how did you get into the mind of a tween boy?
Well, I have a few great nephews, one of which he's close to the age of the main character. And a lot of it is honestly just observation, just being out in the world and seeing teens or being on social media and watching how, I say teens, I mean middle graders, watching how they interact and do things. And just, again, being out in the world, being at Walmart and seeing the kid out with his family and, maybe he's mad because he wants something. And his mom was like, no, you're not getting that. And how does he react that? And watching television shows that they may watch, researching the video games and all that kind of stuff that they're into. So I would say observation and research.
Yeah, I am told that the video game thing is very real and time consuming, almost to the point
and
of
expensive.
obsession. Oh, I didn't know about the expense, but
oh yeah,
but yeah, well, my daughter used to play, but that was back. I forgot what the device was when she was playing, and she's 26 now. So, she does it on the phone sometimes. But these are like the devices, like what are they called? The
PlayStations and the Xboxes,
whatever,
and the Nintendo Switch and all. Yeah,
that was when she was doing that. That was years ago, and it was expensive then. So right. I don't even know what it costs now.
Well, you're talking about just the devices, like to get, codes and coins and all this other stuff. There's extra expensive. Like I read a couple of stories where kids had, parents' credit card might be attached to the kid's online account, and they're busy buying coins, like not realizing that this is real money that they have to pay to get this stuff. Right. And just get parents getting bills through the roof. Like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah. Or in a child's mind, thinking that parents won't find out or whatever. They won't know.
Yes, it's just easy to add up because even with adults, because I play whenever I just need to decompress, I play this game on my phone, and you have to, just like you were saying, have to get the stars and the lives. And it seems cheap because it's like $5 here, maybe $2 here, but then it starts to add up and you see all this money without even realizing it.
Right.
I think that may happen with kids too. They may not be sneaking per se, but they don't realize how much is adding up. It's like when I took my daughter for sushi when she was younger, and you know how they have the little rotating shelf, and it just keeps going around, and she just kept picking up sushi just like this and didn't realize how much all that cost. And next thing you know, I'm paying $60 for sushi. I'm like, girl,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it can add up. You know that happened when we first got our daughter a cell phone. But she's 26 now, so this was early cell phone days. She was 10 when she got her cell phone. So she was playing games and doing that where you had to pay for every level or something. And
Yes.
she didn't realize it was adding up. But I had told Verizon when we got her the phone that it was supposed to be stripped down with nothing on it, no access to anything except calls and texts. And that was even limited. So when I got my first bill and it was $300, you know, I gave them the riot act. They took it off because I had made it known I didn't want it. But I really feel for parents who don't take a measure in the beginning and then get caught, you know, with a big bill beforehand. And a lot of times, you know, children, they just don't understand things. You know, when we didn't understand things, there wasn't a cost attached to it most of the time, you know, but even then, it wasn't a big cost, you know.
Right.
So the secret weapon, your main character is experiencing bullying. Bullying seems to be a topic of a lot of books. A lot of books for children, you know, various ages, from elementary, middle school, and high school.
Right.
And tell us about why you decided to focus on bullying.
Because like you mentioned, it's something that's very prevalent in our society now, especially, you know, so much stuff going on online that parents may not be aware of. You know, kids may be dealing with it at school and may be embarrassed or ashamed to say something. So I really want to tackle it from a Black younger child's perspective, to kind of shed light on it and to address, you know, some things that maybe the child didn't realize could be classified as bullying. You know, I think it's very important to bring light to our stories, to put a face on our story. You know, maybe it's not happening to you, maybe it's happening to your friend in class. How do you deal with that?
Right.
You know, so yeah, so I just believe that it was very important I'm a big believer in sharing our stories. And I just think that they need to be shown from all our perspectives. And showing some from a middle grade boy's perspective, it's something that I wanted to do for years. I started the story years ago. And, you know, life got in the way of me writing other stories and working on other projects and stuff. And finally, about a year ago, I'm like, you know what, like, I feel like now is the time. So I finally sat down and finished it.
Okay.
You know, and it's funny that with all of the books out there that address bullying, that there's still so much bullying that goes on.
Oh, absolutely.
So there can't be enough stories told because eventually we've got to pierce the hearts of some of these kids who think it's fun to pick on somebody.
Right.
I mean, we're hearing all these stories about kids who just couldn't take it anymore. So they brought guns to school, or they used the guns on themselves because they couldn't take it anymore. So we've got to keep telling these stories, and hopefully we'll be able to pierce those hearts. Because unfortunately, if it goes unchecked, they turn into an adult who bullies.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not just about being mean. Sometimes a bully is a bully because they're trying to mask an insecurity of their own.
Right.
And instead of putting the light on their own insecurity, they'll shine the light on somebody else's because in their mind it makes them feel better.
Right. And which is so funny that you mentioned that, Rhonda. That's actually part of what I address in the story, because I have my main character being bullied by another student at his new school. And, you know, it turns out that this boy is being abused at home. I mean, not to give away too much of the story, but, you know, when my main character kind of realizes that, it kind of puts things in a different light, and not that it makes it right, but you know, it does shed light on, you never know what's going on behind closed doors or in somebody else's life, you know. And we say that a lot as adults, But the same is true for kids. Like, you really just never know.
Yeah, it's a shame that some of these situations are, end up with death, that
Yes.
tragically, either the
Yes.
person takes their own life because it just gets to be too much. And with the ability for things to go viral, if we were bullied, it was just in our neighborhood, in our community, it was a
Right.
small circle of people. But now things can go viral, or with the texting, either online or social media or texting, and hundreds of people will be exposed to it. And then it's that's a heavy load for a kid,
It is. It is.
because it's not easy for an adult to deal with.
Right.
So tell us about your blogging, what you blog about, and
So,
do you blog about your like general topics, things happening, in society at a particular time, or do you blog about books?
well, I actually have two blogs. So the first one is housed on my author website. It's unofficially called Book of Splond, where I kind of talk about a little of this, little of that, TV shows that I enjoy. I share scriptures, I share prayers, nonfiction books that, are on my radar, those kinds of things. And my other platform is called Black Fiction Addiction, where I call it all Black books all the time. So we're talking about, Black books and celebrating the authors who create them. So I love to spotlight indie authors, as well as, some traditionally published authors, and just spread the word about the stories that exist. It never ceases to amaze me, the number of people who don't realize just how many amazing Black books and Black authors that are out there. So I love being able to just give light and celebrate those authors.
So for the Black Fiction Addiction, it's a platform. Is it a group? Is it like a member group,
Yeah,
or?
I'm just gonna say, how does
No.
they find the group, or how do they find the platform?
Well, so I have a website, so it's a blog that exists on the website Black Fiction Addiction. And then it's also a social media platform. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook and Twitter. And it's just a matter of, going to any of those pages, any of those sites, and typing in Black Fiction Addiction, and I should pop up. So yeah, so we just, again, I share books and book memes and stuff like that. Authors, well, readers are free to share if they have books that interest them or whatever. I love hearing from them. I love hearing from authors as well, so feel free to reach out to me. I do a book of the day spotlight, so every day, I'm posting a new book to, again, just show what's out there. But
So
yeah, so
you have enough books to do a different one every single day?
I do.
Okay, that's a
Every
lot of
single
books.
day. And
So
I've been
did you
doing
do
this
one
since
today? Did you
2000.
do one
And
today yet?
have I done one today? Yes. The one for today is The Thing About Home by Rhonda McKnight. Today is her
Okay,
release day for her newest book. So
okay, she's
yes,
gonna
that's
be
what
on
we
the
did
show
today.
soon
How do you
with
choose?
talking about her book.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
How do you choose which book you like to highlight?
Um, a few ways. One is to kind of follow a lot of authors and keep up with when they have releases coming out. Another one is, of course, books that I've read and love, sharing those, and then just checking Amazon to see what books are out that maybe I didn't know about, or that may not have been on my radar. And between those things, I managed to get a book of the day every single day, and I've been doing that since 2019.
That's
Every single day.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
Yes.
That's great. So what was the book yesterday? I'm gonna
Oh goodness.
do you remember?
Hey, I can tell you real fast.
Okay. I mean, that's amazing to do a book a day. That's real commitment.
Yeah. So it's called Noteworthy by Darcy Wally. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on Mondays, I typically do, it's called New Release Monday. So any releases from the previous week, I put all those into a post and share those with readers as well.
Okay.
So
Okay, but you
have
folks,
a newsletter attached to the website?
Say that again.
Also have a newsletter attached to the website? Do you send anything out?
Well, yeah, I have subscribed, so people can subscribe to Black Fiction Addiction by going to my website. And if they do, they get my blog, which I publish 3 days a week. It comes, my Black Fiction Addiction blog actually posts 2 days a week. So on Mondays, I post my personal blog. On Wednesdays and Fridays, it's Black Fiction Addiction. And there I have author interviews, book roundup, so book spotlights. So again, all Black books all the time.
okay. Now, how did you start as an author first, and then what was the progression? So like the blog, you're writing books, where did you start?
Actually, the progression was I started off as a book editor. So I have been, I have been an editor for almost 30 years now. Yeah. So I've been an editor since I graduated from college. My first job was as a copy editor for Newsday in New York. So I graduated from the University of Alabama in 1993, and 2 weeks later I moved to New York to be a part of an editorial training program. It was called Minority Editorials Training Program. It was a 2-year program. So the first year I was in New York. The second year I was at another newspaper doing copy editing. That second newspaper actually offered me a job, a full-time job. So I worked there for another year. But it had always been in my heart to actually write books. I wanted to write books since I was 14. And I ended up when I got ready to go off to college, my mom asked me what I wanted to do with my life. And when I told her that I wanted to write books, she was like, yeah, authors don't make any money, so you need a backup plan. So I ended up majoring in journalism because that was the closest I could get to writing books. But as I started taking the classes, I was like, I'm really not feeling this. Like, it was much too structured for me. And my senior year of college, I ended up taking a class in copy editing. And I found that not only did I love it, I was really good at it. And it was something I had been doing all my life and didn't realize that it was actually a career. So I was offered a job again as part of that training program. So I did that for the 2 years. The newspaper hired me, so I worked there an additional year. And as that time was kind of wrapping up, I was thinking, I really want to do something with books because that's just where my heart is. But I realized I didn't have a lot of experience like editing longer stuff. So I came up with a plan to do editing for longer pieces and started applying to magazines. And I ended up landing a job with Good Housekeeping magazine. I worked there for about 4.5 years. And while I was working there, I started doing freelance editing for book publishers. And eventually I landed a job at Kensington Publishing, where I was the consulting editor for BET Books Arabesque, which you may remember back in the day used to be the Black romance line.
Yeah.
So I was the editor there for about 2.5 years. And then eventually I started freelance editing. So I've worked with a lot of amazing authors, some who are aspiring, some who are more established. And then as my work as an editor evolved, I got asked to start doing ghostwriting. And my first book I ever published was actually supposed to be a ghostwriting project. And as I was working on it, the author, the person whose name was supposed to go on the cover, decided they didn't want to do the book. And the editor came to me and said, well, we think, we know you've always wanted to write for young adults. Why don't we put your name on the book?
Great opportunity.
Wow.
And it was all God ordained. It absolutely was.
I haven't heard of that. Most of the time when people have a ghostwriter, somebody else does the work and then they get to put their name on it. They're happy to do that.
Yeah, they decided not to.
This is the first situation I've heard. So I guess, anything can happen.
It absolutely
you're right.
can.
It can be God ordained. And so that was your foot in the door.
It was.
You had already
so that evolved.
anyway.
And here we are 18 books later. And then the blog came after I started writing the book. So it's been an amazing journey, and I'm really thankful and appreciative.
Well, you've been in this industry for quite a while.
You have.
Yes,
What
I have. Like I
changes,
said, it's been almost 30 years now, and it's so crazy to me when I think about it, that
and
I
what,
get paid to do something that I love.
what changes have you really been most surprised by? Because there's been a lot of changes in the industry, but what is something that most surprised you?
Um, I think one of the bigger things is the I kind of the evolution to ebooks. Like I really didn't see that coming. You know, somebody would have told me when I first started out, well, you know, in about 10 or 15 years, like people are going to really be into ebooks, and like that, never saw that coming. But it's something that, you know, I've embraced. A lot of authors have embraced it. Also the cycle of things, I guess the circle of life, kind of. When I first got into book publishing, like self-publishing was a thing where you would like order all the books and have like cases of books
Yeah.
sitting in your house, and then, you know, you shop them out of the trunk of your car. And to see how that has evolved now, where, you know, people are still self-publishing, but you just upload it to Amazon, and now people just buy the ebook, and you can still have stock, but, you know, you can order smaller quantities or
Right.
order it, you know, in different ways. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, things have evolved quite a bit from a technological standpoint,
Yes.
and the addition of audiobooks.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So
Now, one of our viewers, Lydia Bruce, said that she doesn't understand why anybody would want a ghostwriter. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why do people hire ghostwriters?
Well, it happens for a few reasons. One, maybe the person is not skilled at writing. I mean, you know, and maybe they have a platform or something that will yield itself to them wanting to have a book to sell, but they're just not skilled at writing. So they'll hire someone who is skilled at writing to help them get their word across. Normally, when you see a book out and it has like the author's name, and it'll say like with such and such, typically the with person is the one who actually wrote the book.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, you know, ghostwriters are happening behind the scenes, and their name never appears anywhere on the book. So yeah, a lot of times, again, like I said, it may be that the author is not skilled. Maybe they don't have the time to do it. There could be a variety of reasons that a ghostwriter is hired.
Okay, and on the flip side of that, because Lydia clarified, she didn't mean why would people want a ghostwriter, she meant why would people want to be a ghostwriter. So I guess that's the flip side of the question is, why would you want to be a ghostwriter and write something for somebody else and not have your name on it?
Because the money pays pretty well. Yeah, that's long story short. It pays well.
Yeah, because a lot of times the people who like a celebrity book, most of celebrities, they don't write their book.
Oh yeah,
Right.
I'm just listening to a celebrity audio book, and as I'm listening to the book, I'm like, he didn't write this book.
Yeah, they don't write their book. Their memoirs, they might dictate, they'll have somebody, you know, helping out, they might have
No,
material.
I just wanted to hear what you had to say.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
different reasons why they do things.
Yeah.
Well, Chandra, we're at the end of our time. We want to make sure people know the title of your new book, if you could show the cover again, and tell people where they can get it and how they can sign up or be connected with Black Fiction Addiction.
Okay. Well, again, thank you all so much for having me. My name is Chandra Splond, and my latest book is Secret Weapon. It's available on Amazon and essentially all, you know, online booksellers. Readers can reach me for my books at chandrasparksplond.com. And it's simply my name, ChandraSparksplond.com. If you're interested in Black books outside of what I'm writing, you can head over to blackfictionaddiction.com. And there you can sign up for my newsletter, again, where we're all books all the time. So
I did put both of your websites, your personal website and Black Fiction Addiction, into the chat. So I encourage everybody to visit these websites and support all of these authors whom she's highlighting, and then also support Chandra in her work as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you again for being a guest, and continued success with all the work that you're doing.
All right. Thank you all so much for having me. I hope you have a good evening.
And you do the
too.
same. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're going to, a couple of other announcements I have before we bring on our next guest. Our book club kickback is June 13th, and we'll be discussing Connie Briscoe's new book, You Never Know. It's available wherever books are sold. And we are going to give away 2 books, but we'll do it after the second interview. And finally, the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards process is ongoing, but the deadline is June 5th. We've had a lot of submissions, so if you want to submit your book, you still have a month or so to go. It has to be postmarked by June 5th. So just go online. You can go to Black Authors Matter bookawards.com. That's where we have that information. And do I have anything else? We have 2 books to give away, but I'll do it after this next interview. So our next guest has a Facebook group. It's called the Personal Librarians Book Chat. And it's for historical fiction books written by Black women. And Dr. Tammy Smithers is the founder, and she has about 500 people on her book chat. And it's a very specific genre that she focuses on. But she does things besides the book discussions and so forth. But her focus is on historical fiction, which, if you all watch this show, you all know that's my favorite genre to read. So Dr. Smithers, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. And we need you to unmute your mic so we can hear you.
All right. Thank you for having me on, Dr. Lawson and Gwen, Miss Richardson. I'm not sure how you found me, but I'm glad you found me.
Well, we find people. If you're doing book stuff, that's what we do. That's what we find. We want people who are doing things in books. They don't all have to be authors, because it takes more than authors, because you need readers, and so you need people, you need bookstores, you need people who are publicists. So we have all types on the show. And we've had a few other book groups. I can't remember, because historical fiction is my favorite. Somehow I came across your book chat. Somehow in the course of me reading or searching or something, I came across it. And so I said, wow, this would be great. Then I found out you're in Houston, where I am, which is it's a small world, because I didn't know you before that, but it's amazing. And from my understanding, your book chat is named after the book, The Personal Librarian.
That's correct.
Co-authored by Victoria Christopher Murray, and I want to say Lisa Marie Benedict. Is that the right name?
Marie Benedict. You're thinking about Lisa Marie Presley.
Oh, what?
Her name is Marie Benedict. That's her pen name. Her actual.
Okay.
Her actual name is Heather.
Benedict. Okay.
Marie Benedict, correct. Okay. Yeah. Her actual real name, birth name is Heather Terrell. But Marie Benedict is the pen name that she writes under. And you all are talking about being in the book space. I am not. I was never a book club person. I love to read, but I'm sort of an independent, person when it comes to that. And so this book chat, it's specifically book chat, it came about by accident, really, by happenstance. And so I have followed Victoria Christopher Murray for years, but I've never read one of her books prior to The Personal Librarian.
Okay.
I came across her because of her friendship and business relationship with Rashonda Tate, Billingsley, now Rashonda Tate Carradine. Rashonda and I went off to college together. We're both from Houston. We met in high school. And so our mothers worked together. And so that is really how I came to know Victoria, because of Rashonda.
Okay.
So after sort of going through the pandemic, and I should say that I'm not sure how much of a background you gave on me, but you know, I do have a doctorate, but I got the doctorate during the pandemic. I graduated during the pandemic. And prior to that, I was doing a lot of research, but I was not a traditional academic, right? I actually have a business background. I have an MBA. I was a financial advisor. So I've done a whole lot of things, right? But coming back to Houston and then pursuing a doctorate and actually teaching higher education, but going through my research in my studies, I really gravitated towards Black feminist framework in terms of how I approach my research. And so, you know, of course, when we're all young, you know, we read about the Harriet Tubmans, the Rosa Parks, you know, we know about those individuals, but then going into academia, you know, you start to read about Anna Julia Cooper and some of the other women of movements in, you know, early times. And so when this book came across my radar through Victoria, after having followed her for years, the personal librarian, I thought, and I saw the interview, I'm like, I'm going to get that book. So I got the book. I was so excited. And just being active on Facebook, which social media is great. One of my sorority sisters also was interested in reading the book. And so I kind of messaged her and said, hey, we should, you know, let's do something with this, right? So because we both know Rashonda from University of Texas at Austin, and also Victoria through her, we decided to just sort of, you know, corral a group of ladies together to kind of, you know, read the book, and then figure out a time that we could all discuss it. That was really the genesis of where we started. And so it turned out just July 14th, I'm very specific, July 14th, 2021 is when I started the Facebook group after that conversation. We started to gather names of people in Houston and add them to the group with the intent of reading and discussing. Well, after about maybe a couple of days, I mean, I think I finished the book in like maybe 2 days. And I was just floored. And I started to post things in the group, right? You know, questions, you know, just different things. And so people started to respond. My co-founder did the same at the time. And so what I would do is give people time to read, and I started to like do some research, right? So I gave you that background about my interest because I started to pull out research from the book, post it in the group, and there was this huge response. And at some point, Victoria was added. I didn't add her, my co-founder did. And then Rashonda was added. And so they witnessed the sort of activity and the interest level and how people responded. And of course, you know what happens, that next thing goes, well, Rashonda's like, well, can you open it up to, you know, people outside of Houston? Sure. And so I did that after about a week. I think this was on the 19th or so. And when I did that, it prompted more people. We just kept introducing people to this book. People were looking for things to read. And I'm a salesperson, so I kind of would, you know, lurk and bring people on to the page or tell them about the group. And so that is really how we started to build this sort of group of women together. And so when we hosted the session, the book discussion, and it was a book chat and sip, you know, wine, you know, we got to drink wine at my co-founder's home, August 1st, 2021. 28 women gathered. Her home was really, you know, nice. It's large. And so she was able to sort of spread us out because we were still in COVID. And so, but coming out of it. And so we had, you know, wine tastings, we had charcuterie boards, you know, but in boxes. And we just had this really nice, you know, setup. Well, we also had a surprise. And that surprise was Victoria. Victoria actually had flown in to surprise the people in the book group. And so
Boy.
She flew in because, you know, I gave you the backdrop about, you know, the relationship that I have with Rashonda Tate. And so she flew in and surprised the other people that were there. And they were just blown away. Now, I gave you a caveat. I said we were initially starting out as local Houston. Then I said we opened it up to people outside of Houston, and which meant we had to really cater to those individuals who were engaged with the group on a national and international level. I think we had people in Japan, you know, someone from Switzerland and other, I think Germany, you know, maybe from military. So there was a few of those sort of outliers. And so I'm like, well, we have to create a space for them to be able to engage, and for those individuals who are COVID shy and not ready to come out yet. So we decided to do the hybrid. So not only did we have the session in person, we created a hybrid situation, which is not unusual because that's where we were all operating in that space because of the COVID. And so we had this hybrid. We had people with wine. We had our wine. We were sitting there conversing, having us to talk, and really uncovering some issues, particularly with this book that dealt with colorism, survival, and things of that nature. And so we really dug deep and really tried to even create diversity within our group by inviting a few allies to join, just to have that conversation because of, you know, in my opinion, I think it's important to have open dialogue, and books were sort of this way to have that dialogue. And so that's really, you know, how this all unfolded. And one event, one session, one and done. I laugh.
One and done.
One and done. Everybody, because I was the one doing all the research and posting and really digging, I wanted to, because being a finance person, I wanted to know about JP Morgan. So I actually researched his history, his family background, where their money came from, and posted that information in the group. And so people were like, okay, so what's next? What are we reading next? I'm like, well, I'm not reading, I mean, you know, I'm not doing anything else. But I recognized that I had started something had started. And even in conversations with Victoria, she indicated that it would be an opportunity for me to start something. And so her recommendation, after speaking with me and learning about my background, was, you know, why don't you continue this? You can't stop. And so she introduced me to a few more authors, one being Sadiqa Johnson. And as I guess, you know, well, you all are authors, I'm not, but in the author world, you know, authors read other, you know, authors' books and write reviews. And so because this book was historical fiction, she said, this may be something that you want to consider. It's already out, but in really having this sort of, I won't even call it, I guess you can say it's a coaching session, because I really didn't have knowledge, a background in publishing. I didn't have a knowledge and background in the importance of, you know, finding your tribe, your readers. I didn't have a background and knowledge of how Black authors are sort of pigeonholed, right? And so listening to the stories of, you know, some of the authors, I recognized that this was an opportunity to disrupt. Now, I am a Black feminist. That's what I study. I am all about, if anybody who knows me knows, I do everything is women. I'm a womanist, right? So it is much important for me to make sure that people can, if they're connected to my platform, that they have an opportunity to not only allow us to read, but let me address some of the other core issues that are being sort of amplified. And what I mean by that, in talking with Victoria through this sort of coaching session, if you will, because we did have this, I was at the park and I had a phone call with her, and I understood that she had been writing for 20 plus years. I understood that she was sort of didn't seek to become a Christian fiction author. That's just where she was placed. I understood that it took her being it's not lost on us, and I can say this, being a co-author with a white woman to then now become a recognized national New York Times bestselling author. You know, it wasn't lost on me. So all of those things allowed me to uncover and unpack what some of the core issues were. Systemic racism, right, is really what I'm talking about. And what I mean by that is we don't have the formula to be able to understand what it means to, you know, have sales, you know, to have people purchase and understand the science behind pre-orders, you know, creating sales for booksellers and publishers. You know, they are in this because it's a business, right? And so I understood that. And so when I created this sort of extension of what is now the Personal Librarian's Book Chat, with the mission of amplifying the narratives of Black women with their stories written by Black women for Black women, that is one piece of that. The other piece is educating my readers, right? Using the platform to educate them on the importance of purchasing from, you know, independent bookstores, the importance of purchasing and pre-ordering books prior to the release date, right? So that is why I focus as much as I can on new releases. So I have to scour Facebook. I, you know, stalk some of the authors' pages. Sometimes they will message me and tell me I have a book that's coming out. And I'll, you know, kind of research them. And I see sort of, you know, if they're new to the historical fiction genre, I look at the, you know, what is it they're, you know, publishing. And, you know, because I'm speaking about publishing, I'm talking in my space about mainstream publishing, right? So most of my authors are published through you know, some of the larger houses, right? And some medium-sized houses. So I recognize, because they're, you know, in a space that's really not necessarily populated with people that look like them. So I focus the book club and our readings and our selections on that. And so that's really kind of the story, the backdrop of why we exist today in the form that we exist. And if you look at my background, you see Still I Rise, Black Herstory of Resilience and Brilliance. This was a session that I created last month, or I guess in March, excuse me, for Women's History Month. And so that was about 70 people online, virtually. I had 5 authors and 2 academicians on there. We did a kind of a panel, but everybody was sort of, you know, online. And so they were able to hear the perspectives using this as the backdrop. And that is something that's going to now happen annually. So I've already announced the date for next year, which will definitely be in person. This time was hybrid, but, you know, I'm going to create these types of opportunities for authors to engage with readers in a non-traditional way. And we also have extended our sort of opportunities for engaging with people across the country in terms of being able to gather in a place. So we are a book club or a book chat that travels. So book chat and travel. Okay. So we're going to
right. I did see that. I saw you have a trip plan, and it's around history.
Well, what I was going to say is you've taken what was supposed to be an activity.
That's a one-time thing.
Right. You've turned it into something huge. And it's something that you're continuing. Do you have to look back on everything that you've created and like, wow, how did that happen?
I have. I do it all the time, every day. It's just because I'm a creative. I'm a fundraiser. And so I work with BIPOC organizations. And so I'm always thinking through how to leverage, you know, sort of my skills in helping others. And this is sort of an extension of that. And I think, you know, one of the great things about this is that it's not something I sat down and wrote a business plan for. It's truly organic. And it's not driven by me. It's driven, by who? The readers. And it's read hers, READ, hers, HERS, or we call ourselves librarians. So it's driven by them. And it's really them who forces me to think outside of the box. Because when we read the second book, Yellow Wife, one of the readers was so moved that she sought a plantation in Houston.
Wow.
Not in Houston, outside of Houston. She went on a field. She took her biracial daughter. She herself is African-American, but her daughter is biracial, and her mom. They went to a plantation in West Columbia, and the story wasn't necessarily similar to Yellow Wife, in that it didn't have the same, but it had the same, that the plantation owner was a white, of course, white, and the mistress of the plantation who he spent time with was a Black woman. But their relationship was not like the woman in Yellow Wife, perhaps. It was more of a mutual sort of thing. And she came back and posted about it on Facebook. And I said, post it in the group. And then when she did, the response was, oh my God, where is that? I want to go, I want to go. So what did we do? We created a field trip. So, and that happened right before we met with Sadiqa for our monthly talk, which was our second session. And we've gone to the museum, Afro-Atlantic History exhibit that we saw, the Museum of Fine Arts here in Houston. And that is part of why we are going to New Orleans. So you're in the group. And when I did that in 2021, those two activities, last year, I introduced someone outside of the United States, who lives outside the United States. She's an expat, to Victoria. And so she invited Victoria to come to the Bahamas. And so when I brokered the introduction, she talked about what she was looking for. And so Victoria agreed. And so I said, well, Victoria, since I've made the introduction, I'll go with you, and I'll bring, the book club. So that's how we got overseas. And so that was people that, because they just want to travel and be around authors. So they went. Okay. And so that became sort of the launching pad for going international. So I rolled out, I don't know when you joined the group, Gwen, but I rolled out in January. I try to, January 2nd, have the list of for the year and the activities. So I rolled out from 2023 through 2026, wow, what our travel schedule looks like. So,
well, I just recently joined the group. I want to say, I think as soon as I joined, I invited you to be on the show. So that was like 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay.
This is just so
you didn't have a chance to see this session still I arrived.
No, I haven't seen anything because I just joined. The only thing I've seen is your list of books for the year.
Yeah.
Okay. And all of those authors.
I did find your list of books for the year, and there's some great books. So next month is going to be A Right Worthy Woman by Ruth P. Watson.
Yep.
Yeah. She'll be on the show next month.
Right?
Yep, good,
good. All the people on your list either have been on the show already, or they're going to be on the show for upcoming releases.
So
great.
7th is The First Ladies, which is another big Victoria.
Yeah, that's about Victoria. She'll be on. That's our book club kickback book for September 5th. We're going to have her on.
Good.
Our book clubs to discuss that one.
And you have Queen of Exiles by Vanessa, who's been on.
Yeah, Vanessa will be on soon too. Like she was on she was on the year before that. So all of the people on your list, they either were on a few months ago or they're going to be on in coming months. So I was familiar with all of those books.
Yes, they all know one another. And I realized that very quickly when I think it was the second session that we did in 2021, there was a few authors on there, and I wouldn't have known that they were authors unless Victoria or somebody else recognizes and says. And so now they're all my friends. You know, they are friends of the book club. They are a part of the book club. They love to see the energy. Sadiqa was here in Houston a couple of weeks ago at the end of April. Our session with her was a few days later. She would have normally been around in May, but she had to get in early. But I just, you know, the other thing I try to do is, and I don't know how common this is host the authors, like have them. So we read the book first, then we host the session so we can really chat about it, versus some places, you know, you can't give spoilers away because people haven't read the book. So when we discuss, because I told you, I like, you know, research, I like to talk about themes, I like to really delve deep. And so we are able to do that because people who come on the calls have read the book, and the author can then go a little deeper. So when Sadiqa was here in Houston, she couldn't give spoilers at the bookstore, but when she knew, so we were on the front row, we were all like, you know, we couldn't say anything because we would have given some things away. So we waited for our time with her a few days later. But yeah, so that's sort of, you know, kind of what we have. I was just right before getting on. We're going to Martha's Vineyard, so we're going to do a retreat. So my book chat theme is carrying through: book chat and travel, book chat and retreat. And so and it's historical. Yes, ma'am.
To your Facebook group in the chat. It didn't have like a name, it was like the numbers, but I think if you're able to click on the link, it would take you to the page.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're talking about the Facebook.
Numbers,
yeah, I think it's
they all
it's
have
just
numbers.
Yes. So the Facebook page, it may not, I don't know if it's findable because it's a secret group.
It would be
So
findable because it'll if they search for personal librarians book chat, it'll come up. It'll say it's a private group, but you have to request membership.
Okay, and I approve you. And and so the caveat is that I'm looking for Black women's faces. And if, you know, there is someone who's asking, usually I know them or somebody in the group, or say this person's okay, because I think there's like a librarian in there who someone else said she's someone she went to school with and she needs to be in that group so she can see.
In other words, there's a vetting system. You're not just letting it.
Correct. Okay. And it's that way because I've had some people push back on me and say, you know, why do you have to have white people in the group? And, you know, I constantly repeat myself in saying that we center Black women, right? So even the questions, it's like, are you okay with that, right? So, but recognizing that we do need to have, you know, a space for us. But I do have a friend of mine who's right here in Houston, who is one of my dearest friends and fans, right? She's a supporter in every sense of the word and ally. And she has been so amazing at, you know, sharing with her group outside of, you know, people like me, you know, about the books that we're reading. So I do have people that are playing the role of a good ally, right? And I also have, I've created a founder circle within the book club that are some people that I selected who were in kind of on the ground floor, who are supporting me and sort of providing me with seed money to be able to do things, because we've had, what do you call them, movie nights, right? Hosted by Kindred. Hosted by me, but Kindred, you know, she kind of used me as a beta to be able to have the passing big screen outside in her. I don't know if you've been to Kindred Stories.
Kindred Stories, I haven't been. I've talked to them. They haven't been.
So they have a courtyard in the backyard, and we had burners outside, like warmers. We had a screen. We had movie night. My group, you know, somebody I put in charge of that had popcorn. It was lovely, a lovely movie night. And so we want to do those types of things more. And in New Orleans, that trip is all historical, right? We are literally from start to finish. Where we're staying is historical. So, and where we're going to the World War II Museum, we're going to see the girls from, I'm saying girls, the women, our girls, because we read Sisters in Arms, right? So the members, they seek out, when they travel to New York, they're going to the Morgan Library because they want to see where the personal librarian worked, so there's so much to this that not only are the readers just reading, but they're like actively pursuing and actively learning. And to be quite frank, we're teaching them about history in a different way, in a unique way. So I can talk all day. So I know you guys
I
have
know,
probably
and we're at
questions.
the very end of our time because we have another guest after you.
Yes,
But
it's 9 o'clock. But thank you so much. I think a lot of people are interested and they're asking how they can be a part. If it's paid. So if people want to get more information about the book chat, where should they go?
Just tell them it's not paid. It's just a page. Facebook is only where I'm found, but it is Personal Librarians Plural Book Chat on Facebook, and just go through the vetting process and I'll let you in. And it's for women only.
well, that's allowed. You can pick whoever your audience that you want. It's it's for your book chat.
Well, it's just that's the way that it's set up, written by women about Black women, for Black women, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's good to get love. So thank you so much for Dr. Tammy for coming on. This is amazing what you've done. And it sounds like you could talk another 30 minutes.
I sure could.
We don't have, but it's very interesting and exciting what you're doing. And thank you for supporting the authors. That's the main thing.
Yes,
because
thank
they
you.
need all the support they can get for the amazing work that they're putting out. Amazing.
And thank you for supporting Black authors, Black women authors. And
yes, ma'am.
Fiction.
Yes.
It's a wonderful genre.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I love it. All right, ladies.
Have
a
a great evening.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we said we had 2 books to give away, and I need to do this really fast before we let our next guest on. So the first book is a book that she mentioned. Well, she didn't mention it, but she mentioned the author, Suzetta Johnson. We have a copy. This one is not autographed, but it is the book, The House of Eve. And so this is the first book we're giving away. And the trivia question for that is, one of the book's central characters, Eleanor Quarles, attends which HBCU? So you can get your copy. This is a hardcover of The House of Eve by Suzetta Johnson. And the next book is, this is an advanced reading copy. It is called Zora Books, Her Happy Ever After. It's by Taj McCoy. There's the name of the author and there's a title there. And it's called Zora Books, Her Happy Ever After. And the trivia question for that is, let's see. Oh, the main character, Zora, is a business owner of what type of business? So answer, we already have a winner.
Cheryl McGee.
Okay. Cheryl McGee. Oh, that's a new person. So
yes.
Cheryl, what you need to do, and I'm gonna admit Suzetta so we can get started with her. What you need to do, since you've never won a book, is you need to DM us your address so we can send you your copy of The House of Eve. And we will go ahead and start talking to Suzetta Perkins about her books and her career and her writing. And
thank you. Let's see you.
Thank you for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I have to say first, I think that was one of my girlfriends who I asked to join, Cheryl McGee, who won that book. And I know what'd you say?
I said, Cheryl, do you see what happens when you support? You get
yeah. You're Wednesday.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Awesome. She
So,
was very different too. Yes.
yeah. So Suzetta we've been connected on Facebook forever.
Yeah.
But we've never met, I don't think. Have we? Have we ever met? I don't think we've ever met.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I know who you are, you
Yeah.
know, with that, but no, I don't think we've ever met in person.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to meet you virtually.
Yes, yes.
And you
yes.
have a new book out,
Yes,
and
well, yes.
Fallen Leaves, and then you're working on the sequel to it also.
Oh,
So just give us some background, Suzetta, on your writing career, how many books, and when did you get started, and why did you get started? Everybody's story is different, so we want to hear yours.
Well, my name is Suzetta Perkins, and actually I've been writing my whole life, okay? Even when I was knee to a grasshopper,
Yeah.
I love to write. In fact, my very first published work is in my high school yearbook. And that was in 1970, okay? That's the year I graduated from high school. But anyway, yeah, I was a co-editor of my yearbook. And so that's where you'll find my first published writing. So I've always written a lot of short stories, always claimed that I was going to publish, you know, a book. But of course, you know, afraid to put myself out there. But it wasn't until 2000 that I actually penned my very first novel. And even at that, and that was Behind the Veil. And even at that, gosh, I got this thing, and I, of course, thought it was a masterpiece, but, you know, still didn't want to put it out there. I'm talking about 50,000 edits and getting editors, you know, paying editors to look it over, but it became, you know, a published work. So I have 17 novels, and when I first started out on my journey, I was a book club. I am the book club president for the Sisters Book Club here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm actually born and raised in Oakland, California. That's where I come. That's where my family is. So I'm a Cali girl. Always will be a Cali girl. But
okay.
Even though I live in North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Anyway, so I used to attend a lot of literary functions. You know, I would follow authors around, and I know that the doctor. I wrote her name down that was on just prior to me. She talked about Victoria Christopher Murray, who I know very well, you know, and I remember Victoria used to say, girl, are you following me around? You're stalking me, you know. I was really learning. I didn't tell anybody that I was writing, but I did go as a book club president, you know, and I used to take a lot of my, you know, book club members with me, you know, but then I was able to get some vast knowledge about, you know, writing my book, you know, and I said, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, you know. And one of the guys, Timothy McCann, I know was in New York. It was right before Timothy McCann. It was right before the 9/11. And I was in New York at the hotel right down the street, the Hilton. And I remember Timothy saying that he had sent out his his what you call it, his information to, I don't know, about 70, he said 70 agents and what have you, and got back 75 rejection letters. I said, yes. And so when I started doing that, I was excited, you know, I got these rejection letters. But anyway, I won't belabor all of that, you know, but that was really my advent. And so I did not want to go the self-publishing way. And so I sought out an agent, and I was doing in the early years, you know, they had everybody was online, you know, and talking online, and I see people's names. And one person I saw was Maxine Thompson, who was my agent, but she just passed away.
Yes, we talked about it on the show.
Oh, you did? Yeah, she was my agent. And she said before she became my agent, she was attending the National Book Club Conference in Atlanta, which I've attended almost every one of those as well. So I said, I'm going to meet that woman. Okay. So anyway, I aspired to get to her session, but first of all, well, I got so many things. Yeah,
You're about to burst.
I'm gonna stop so y'all can ask me some questions.
You can do it however you want.
Our last guest didn't even let us ask questions. She just rolled with it.
Yeah, she rolled. We didn't
I
get
know
our
that.
questions.
I said, oh, I hope I don't be like that. So, when you're talking about something that you love and you
You
can
can talk.
right, going like a train. So anyway, I had promised myself to get to her salon because I said it was important for me to get there. However, I got stuck up in somebody else's, and it probably was Zane, because Zane was my imprint publisher. I was with Simon and Schuster's, in my imprint publisher was Straber, Simon and Schuster, and I was there for 12 years. But anyway, so wanted to do that. So I got to the very end of Maxine's thing, and I was telling her how I just enjoyed what she was saying online and everything, and I needed her card, and so I did that, but I still, went the route and, did my research to find out what publishers or agents or editors were, reading the kind of stuff or taking the kind of things that I enjoyed writing, which is suspense. I'm a suspense novelist. And so anyway, so I got my rejection letters. I mean, I really smiled. At least they looked at it and they,
At least they responded.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, but when I sent the query letter to Maxine, I really hooked it up real good. I like this, send me the first 3 chapters or whatever, and then it became the whole novel. And it took quite a while to see if she would accept me, but anyway, she did. And then I remember, it's a process, and I think that she knew that Straber was, doing this, inking this deal with Simon and Schuster. So she said, we just gonna hold back a little bit. And that's what we did, and the rest is history. So I was with them for 12 years. I have 17 novels. And I did say I penned my first book in 2000, but I didn't get a book deal until 2006. So it was released in 2006. So from 2006 to 2012, 13, 14, whatever it was, I just don't remember off the top of my head. I was with Straber. And I
Did you do a book every year?
Yes, every year. I love writing, I love writing. Actually, I was a secretary. Well, let me finish the thought, because I'm one of the people who go off on tangents and then forget what I say. And so for the rest of the books that I've penned, they have been self-published, but I learned so much through the other process, and so forth. And I still get editors to read my stuff, and, I pay and what have you. And, and I have, a lot of connections with a lot of authors who's helped me, so I do everything through Amazon. But prior to that, let me say I'm retired. Just giving me a little background. As I already said, I'm born in Oakland, California, born and raised. And I just retired from an HBCU, Fayetteville State University. I was the secretary of the whole university, yes. And I worked with the board of trustees there. So I retired a couple of years ago, so I could really do, a lot of this. Of course, the pandemic came, and so everything kind of stopped, or, was kind of at a standstill, so I didn't, and I think I don't know, I think it affected me in some kind of way as well, but because I didn't do as much writing, even though I did pen Fallen Leaves during that time. But, I could have, being at home, I probably could have written more, but I wasn't. Sometimes you just aren't in the state of mind to do so, and so I wasn't there every day, and what have you, doing that. So anyway, needless to say, Fallen Leaves did come out on last year, and I was very proud of that. It actually was a different type of book than I normally write. Like I said, I'm a fiction suspense writer, mostly women's fiction, and that's what I loved. When I grew up, that's what I love reading: mysteries and suspense and all of those kinds of things. So that's why I chose that genre. But when I wrote Fallen Leaves, actually, I thought this was going to be, because I still say that I'm going to write this literary piece, right? And it started out that way, maybe the first few sentences, but my voice, you know, and every writer has a voice. And I know that, Gwen, because you've written too, you know, so you know about those voices. And my crazy voice got into it, and it wasn't a literary piece I thought I was right, you know, but I did make a statement with it. And just to give you just a little bit about Fallen Leaves, it happens, the year is 2022. And most all of our lives were impacted, you know, by the pandemic, that global COVID scare that we had. It was impacted by that, and you know, it tested our human emotions and our spirits and so forth. So what I wanted to do, just to move on, I wanted to write a story that talked about that, because, you know, everybody had a way of dealing with it. You know, I think with this one hitting so hard, because I had friends, family members, and others, you know, that I knew but maybe weren't as close, who died from COVID. And that was the first time, it's like every week, or, you know, twice a week, somebody you knew that you personally knew, you know, that was close to you, that was falling off, you know, and it just really got to me, you know. And so what I did was I gave this character a name, Gypsy, who, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I turned this phone down. I did. Anyway, Gypsy, who's at the very beginning of the story, is a little kind of down on her luck, you know. She doesn't have it as good as some, you know. She working at Waffle House. Nothing wrong working at Waffle House, because even though I don't like Waffle House, we have a new one. We have a new one by where I live. I think I've been that Waffle House more times than I've been to any other Waffle House in all the years I've been living. Boy,
yeah, sometimes proximity is a good motivator.
Right. It's clean and it's fresh. The coffee's good. You know? Okay.
And Waffle House, I haven't been to one in many years, but their prices were good. And they're
good, actually.
Yeah, they're better than IHOP. I think IHOP has the worst pancakes I've ever tasted.
I usually get a waffle when I go there, you know, but I said, shoot, I'm gonna milk this up, wow, because the food is pretty good, and $10 for
the price,
waffle and eggs or whatever, you know. But anyway, so Gypsy works at Waffle House, you know, she's living on Section 8. She's, you know, running around in a car, there's a clunker, you know, while across town, in the same town, she has a sister who's living the good life. You know, she's married to an attorney in the city, and I use Fayetteville as my backdrop. Oh,
by the way, I want to ask you this before I forget. One of our guests from last week lives in Fayetteville. Brendan Slocum. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I do know him. Yeah.
He was on the show last week with his book, his new book about the violin conspiracy.
Yeah, I met him. In fact, I have my picture. I met him. I went to Winston-Salem. He was in Fayetteville, and somebody told me about it, but you know, I'm like, I don't know who that is, you know. And then of course my girlfriend in Atlanta said, girl, you gotta go hear this guy, Brandon Slocum. He is so good, he's better than die. I said, now see, somebody all the way in Atlanta had to tell me.
Somebody had to tell you about it.
Right here. So I had to travel 2.5 hours, you know, to go see him. But he was so wonderful. He was so good. Oh my God, he was
Did he play his violin?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Yeah, he talked about that. But see, I know Fayetteville. I'm from North Carolina. Well, my roots are North Carolina. And I know Fayetteville is not that big. So I think
but it is really growing. If you haven't been here in a while, you will not recognize it, okay?
Yeah, well, it's big is relative, but I mean the Black community, you know.
It's not Houston, Dallas, or I lived in Texas too. My first husband was in the state.
You better tap into that military community and sell them your books.
Yeah, and I used to go on, you know, when I was with Straber, you know, Simon Schuster, because they can get the books, you know. It's a whole different community out there now, you know. Okay. But I used to do a lot of the military spots. Being my former husband was a military, well, and my husband, he passed away in 2010. He also was former military, so I had ID card, it was easy to access, get on and all of that. But anyway, so with Gypsy, okay, so she's at, really at the bottom of her luck. But what she does find, and so what happens is that she contracts COVID, and she's in the hospital. I had her to get COVID, so we can go through this experience. And what happened with most of us who were home, even if we didn't contract COVID, we were either sitting in front of the TV or, on Zoom meetings with, like I was, that kind of thing. And we were home. And on May 25th, George Floyd. And because they kept posting it and playing and replaying that incident over and over and over again, the whole world took notice. Even though, we had the Breonna Taylors, Ahmaud Arbery and Trayvon Martin, these people have been, Sandra Bland had also had similar incidents, with the police, but it's like the world took notice when George Floyd. And the other thing is George Floyd's family is from here, from Fayetteville, and from our area. In fact, his stepmother worked at the same college that I worked at, but it angered me seeing that over and over again, and I mean, I just wanted to, go to Minneapolis and, and stump on that policeman myself. That's how angry I felt inside. So I got this idea, okay, now Gypsy, she don't have a lot going on. She's not going back to work, right now. Her sister, that's another, I won't even go into the story, but that's a love-hate relationship right there. And but anyway, she became involved, just top layer synopsis, she became involved in the movement, and the movement opened up new avenues for her. I was on I was on a what am I trying to say? I was with a group on Sunday night. That's what I'm trying to say. An interview, Sunday night, and I talked about this, And so what I want to do is open up an opportunity for Gypsy, because we want to see most times character who may be like her, any character, depending on what it is, evolve and get better, so I opened up this opportunity for her. And she actually found purpose in her life. And the purpose took her to DC and to Los Angeles, where she ends up, even though she had never been out the city of Fayetteville prior to that, And so
that's not uncommon for people. I mean, well, some people from that area, because I have extended family, not some of them are Fayetteville, but my parents were from Hillsborough and Mebane. And so, I have people in Burlington and just all the little areas around there. But most of them on both sides, like my first cousin, they never left the area. They pretty much never left the state, for sure.
Yeah,
they just kind of stayed where they were.
You are so right, because I've helped, some young girls, part of what our book club does, we, supported different groups, rest homes, and one of the things I took under my wing, young girls, to help them to, it's kind of character-based, get their hair done, take them to events at the university, that they would normally go to. And when the girl said she had never been to Spring Lake is just on right here to Fayetteville. I said, you have never been to Spring Lake? It's only just down the street. They had never been, and I remember when I first came to Fayetteville, what one of my coworkers said, well, the people down in E-Town, they're what they look forward to is getting them a double wide when they grow up. I said, shut your mouth, okay? Honestly, that's what she said to me. I could not believe.
Some people, their universe is very small.
Yes, exactly. So you learn, I learned not to judge, okay? Because I don't know these people. I don't know where they come from, and everybody has their own, way of enjoying the future, doing things, So you know, who am I? You know, it just sounded foreign to me because I came from a big city, you know, and I'm like, are you serious? You know I did that because that's who I used to be. Okay. I guess maybe every now and then I still do that. But anyway, that's, you know, so anyway, I wanted Gypsy to experience more than that. And so now she's evolved and she's really in the movement in Los Angeles. And so the second book, Black Diamond is a precious gem, you know. Black diamonds are rare. And so that's why she is the Black Diamond, you know. And anyhow, so that's why I coined it that without going into all the other little adjectives. But anyway, so we see her progress even beyond, you know, the United States, you know. So that's where I'm going with it, you know. Yes, but a lot of things happen, you know. I'm actually the queen of drama too. So, you know, things gotta happen. But I had one thing I put a lot of realism in it because, you know, from Oakland, a lot of things happen. People that I know and went to school with, you know, and people, what they will do as readers, and you probably know this, they will fact check you, okay? And that's what they should do. And they like, girl, you had me going to the web, but this stuff is real. I said, yeah, because I lived through some of it, you know. Black Panthers, I'm watching the thing with Tupac now, you know. Black Panther headquarters right there in Oakland, California. Said 3rd Avenue. Okay, that was used to be the end of the bus line going to choir rehearsal every Monday. Sister, you got your Panther paper? Yeah, brother. It just came out today, sister. Okay, you know, got to I don't know how many buttons, you know, Panther, Black Proud, you know, this, that, and the other. You know? So, you know, I did that. We had riot at our school, and nobody did nothing to us at our school. But you know, the Black folks, you know, we had to be part of the climate. You know, I was actually the one who ran home, but I didn't tell nobody I ran home. You know, Mom and Daddy would have beat me. I mean, they stole the bus. Our Black folks. I remember Steve Bailey said, "Look, okay, all them white folks are riding them free yellow buses, and we the only ones paying for the bus." And that was true. We had to pay AC Transit. And he said, when it comes to the end of our line, right, tomorrow, y'all get up, tear up the seats, and throw them out the window. Whatever you do, they're gonna give us a yellow bus. Let me tell you, that white man took that money. I'm telling you, he leave that money behind. That man ran down Kelly Hill, and I ran home while they were still tearing up the seats. But then that's what I'm saying. I lived through that. And actually, Steve Bailey, the guy I talked about, his brother became a big newspaper person down in Oakland, and the Muslims killed him because he was sniffing out this story, you know. And I was overseas at the time when I read it, and I'm like, Chauncey Bailey. Oh my God. So I put him in the story, you know, just to talk about Black Lives Matter, even though he didn't die at the hands of a policeman, you know, was at the hands of, you know, a Muslim. So anyway, so that's some of my background.
Well, you filled up the segment with all of that, and we're close to the end of our time.
Well, before you leave, show us your book cover.
Yes, I was going to ask you to do that.
Okay, I don't know if you guys can see behind me.
I see a bunch of books behind you.
Yeah, I see some bookshelves. Is it virtual or real?
That's real. All of this is real. I have books over here. I have books in every single room in my house.
I have that problem too.
Okay.
I got books all over my house.
Of course, I have a Suzetta Perkins section.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Cheryl McGee. CHERYL McGee. I wanted to write down the young lady's name that won the book.
Right.
Cheryl McGee.
But hopefully she will DM me her address.
Okay.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay. That's a very nice cover. Now, how old is Gypsy? What age, what generation is she?
In her late 30s.
Okay. So I wanted to know if she was like in her 20s. You know, there's a difference when you're in your 20s versus when you're in your 30s. Well, there should be anyway.
Right. Yeah, definitely. They do different things. You know?
Yes. Yeah. I tell people the 20s, that's the decade of adventure.
Right. And I just recently got the Book Excellence Award for this particular book.
Okay. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you. And I
That's
just want to say one other thing is that I also, through my church, I am the leader of the Literary Inc. I called it the Literary Inc. Life Group. We have life groups. So I teach it on, online to those who want to join that.
Okay.
particular thing. So we're writing books and hopefully become best-selling authors.
Okay. Well, Suzetta, for those who want to purchase your books, they're available everywhere, I assume.
Well,
Everywhere books are sold.
because I'm I'm self-published now, they're available through Amazon.com.
Okay, well, that's nowadays, that's where most people buy
Oh,
their
yeah.
books anyway. But they can probably get them if you're through KDP, then they can get them at their independent bookstore if they request them.
Yes, yes,
Mhm,
yes.
they can do that. So Fallen Leaves looks like an interesting read, and I like the cover. So congratulations on that, and I'm glad I got a chance to finally meet you, even though it's virtual.
Thank you for all that you've contributed to this industry. We did
Yeah.
put the website in the chat, so people will be able to reach out and find your 50,017,000 books that you.
I thank you all for having me. This was a joy, and hopefully I get to meet you in person. I do aspire to get to Houston
At some point.
Yeah, at some point. So
Okay, well, it's always in October, so
in October.
just plan ahead. It's always in October. So okay, well, take care. Thanks for being on the show,
You all be blessed.
and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, Suzetta was guest number 499. And so our 500th guest, we're getting ready to bring her on the show. The only thing I wanted to say was, did anybody win the other book?
That's what I'm checking, but I do
Okay,
not
this one.
see a second winner.
Okay, well, we may bring it back next week if nobody answers the question.
Well,
And
if we should, because people may have gotten caught up in the interview, so I can
they
read.
may have. So the question on here is the main character, Zora. This is called Zora Books Her Happy Ever After. She is a business owner of what type of business? The main character. And this book is by Taj McCoy. There's you can see the name. Okay, so our final guest is Cheryl Head. And Cheryl has she's won several awards for her writing, but she's our 500th guest of the show, and congratulations on being number 500. We have talked to 500 different people.
You should have had confetti going.
We should have. I didn't know how to do that. But as our 500 guests, because whenever we do the milestone, like for 100, 200, so forth, our guest gets to order any book of their choice up to $50. And the way you do that is you just email or direct message me the book that you want, and we will ship it directly to you. So you can do it after the show. So up to $50. That includes most books. So that even includes coffee table books or whatever. But any book, it can be any book, because through our distributor, we have access to every book that's in print. But welcome to
Dr. Rhonda found some glitter.
Thank you for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Oh, thank you so much, Gwen and Dr. Rhonda, for having me. And it's such an honor to be the 500th guest. I didn't know I was going to get a gift too. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did want to tell you that historical fiction is my favorite genre. And so and so when I heard about your book, guess what I did? I ordered my own copy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this is your new book, Time's Undoing.
Yes.
And it's historical fiction, but you tie it in with something current, kind of related to a contemporary person. So tell us a little bit about before we get into the book itself, tell us about your background as a writer, and how you when you published your first book, and and all of
Okay.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So I came to writing fiction late in life. I worked in public television and public radio for a long time. And then I was working I live in Washington, D.C. I was working at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and we fund all the public television stations around the country, like your station in Houston, WHUT, and all those places. And we also provide monies to producers. So we were producing Ken Burns' magnificent documentaries that he does. He had
Okay.
done a documentary called The War. It was about, Black soldiers in glory during World War II. But when I looked at the series, I thought his treatment of the Black soldiers wasn't as complete as it could be, or at least it didn't jibe with what I'd heard from my father, who had served in World War II. So I
Mhm.
started doing some research about Black soldiers during World War II, Negro soldiers, they were called at the time. And I decided to write a story about the majority of those soldiers who did not go into glory overseas to the war theaters, but stayed home doing menial tasks in bases around the country, unloading ships and digging graves and building buildings for the white soldiers and that kind of thing, because it was a very segregated army at that point. And so from there, I wrote my first historical novel. It was called Long Way Home, about those men and women, WACs and Army, mostly Army soldiers who fought in World War II on stateside, doing their duty with, I think, courage and honor under really dire conditions because they were treated as second-class soldiers.
Now, was that book fiction or nonfiction?
That was fiction.
Okay, it was historical fiction.
Historical
Okay.
fiction, and I self-published that book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, got it off my chest. So like, okay, I'm done. I spent a lot of time at the Library of Congress, so because I wanted to get it right, I wanted to do honor to those soldiers and to that time period. That was 1943 to 45 in the book. And so I pretty much said, okay, it's done. I think I queried maybe six different people, and they've gone like, well, we don't know what to do with it. I'm going like, fine, I'm self-publishing. Bam, I hit Amazon.com. And after that, when I was just so worn out from all the work, it must have taken me 8 or 9 years to do that book. I decided to write a mystery because I love mysteries, and I didn't have to think about that one. And I just, in 4 months, I wrote the first mystery, self-published that, said,
Okay.
good job, Cheryl, and what about my merry business?
Okay. So, what made you write Time's Undoing? Because it said it was inspired by true events. I love the cover. I love the art.
They
Yeah.
did a great job with that artwork, the folks at Dutton Books. So I heard Suzetta say, just before me, she talked about George Floyd. I think George Floyd's murder inspired a lot of people to do a lot of things, both creative and political and activism of all kinds. And that was the day I decided to write my grandfather's story. So my grandfather was killed by Birmingham, Alabama police in 1929. And it's a story that has been kind of cloaked in secrecy in our family, mostly because we didn't have a lot of detail about it, but also because people in those days, Black people in those days, were afraid to really talk about their encounters with police. They didn't want to, throw shade on the police. They feared for their lives. And so his story was whispered for a lot of time during my mother's childhood and my grandmother's life. But my mother and grandmother always kept his story alive, always told us about him at holidays and dinners and those kinds of things. And so my mother and I had talked a long time about one of us writing about this, but I couldn't muster up the initiative to do it because I didn't think I had enough information to write it. It couldn't be a memoir because we just didn't have enough details. Killed by Birmingham police. My grandmother had to be whisked away from Birmingham so that she didn't get in trouble. We didn't even have the right date he was killed.
Wow.
Mm. And I'm sure it wasn't in the
So
newspaper.
George Floyd is killed. Well, it turns out it was. Turns
Well,
out
was
I
it in
found
the was it in the like the daily or the Black newspaper?
Good question. So I started doing research around that time and around Birmingham. hours upon hours of research in Black newspapers. Couldn't find anything in Black newspapers. I was on newspapers.com. I came across a small article that was in the St. Petersburg Times. And my grandparents were originally from St. Petersburg. And the headline that you see in the book is the actual article that I found in the St. Petersburg Times when I was doing the research for this story. And that was the first time we had actual proof of his murder. Before it was rumor, before it was my family's memories and oral history, but we had no documentation at all.
Okay.
And so once I found that article, I had a date. And with that date, I was able to dig up his death certificate. So we now have his death certificate, which we didn't have for, 67 years.
Wow.
Can you talk a bit about that feeling that may have gone through your minds as you were able to finally start putting the pieces together?
Yeah. So I write mysteries, so that's puzzle work to me. You're laying clues and you're looking for clues and you're putting pieces together. And I was doing the research that my protagonist in the book was doing, at calling people, reading books, looking at maps, looking at headlines, going through archives of newspapers, Black newspapers and the mainstream newspapers. And so when I came across that article, it just shook me, it just knocked me back. I probably was halfway into the writing of the book. I remember stopping and crying and, looking again at it and crying. I eventually called my mother. She was 92 at the time. I didn't want to, spring it on her in a way that might scare her, or, cause her to have a heart attack or something. So I remember easing into the conversation about it. I called my brothers and sisters to tell them I finally had proof of it. It was a mind-blowing incident inside of kind of a mind-blowing process of writing this book, because there were so many parallels with what was happening in the book and what was happening with me as a writer in my real life, discovering these clues about his death.
So how much detail did they give in the news article you found?
That so when you look in that article in the book, it says, the headline says, "Local Negro killed by Birmingham police." When I saw that, I went kind of like this. And then the first line says, "Robert Harrington," and gives his address in St. Pete, the family address, was shot and killed by Birmingham, Alabama police. It was called in by the chief of police in St. Pete for some reason to the newspaper. Don't know why. And then they said no further details are known.
So did you know how old he was at the time?
Yes, he was 28 at the time.
Oh, he was a young man.
He was a young man.
Started.
And Megan, the contemporary protagonist, is also 28. So it really is a book with young people in it,
Okay.
And young people will read the story because I think they need to know about these historical events that to them, the Black Lives Matter movement seems like a contemporary activity, but it is based on a lot of systemic racism and lots and lots of incidents of Black men and women shot in interactions with law enforcement that we'll never know about.
Right. Most of whom names we will never
Are nameless. Know. That's correct. That's correct.
Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. So you make your contemporary character a reporter, a journalist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So journalists can be good characters for digging up information. Because in my novels I have a journalist.
Right.
That's what they do every day, is dig up information.
That's right.
So,
and I thought, who else but a young journalist who has a connection to the story would have the kind of tenacity and courage and guts to go out and kind of try to dig up the clues to solve this mystery of her great grandfather.
Right, and the tools, and also the habits or the skills, because research is a skill, and I mean journalists they research things and then they put what they find in writing. That's not something that everyone does or can do, has that skill.
That's right. And I wanted to show that process. I mean, there have been readers who go like, why do we have to see her looking through newspapers? Why?
That's how it's done.
That's how it's done.
And Google doesn't have everything. Google only has like either things that are major historical events. This is something that I try to get to young people to get them to understand not everything can be Googled. Google has like major historical events or what has happened in the last 20 years or so, 25 years. And all the other stuff is not on there. You know,
Exactly.
because you couldn't Google your what happened to your grandfather.
Well,
Oh, I could Google it, but nothing would come up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You couldn't Google
could
you
not
could Google it, but
do
it
it,
wouldn't,
that's right.
nothing would show up.
get yourself into the research, because to research something that happened that long ago, you have to go to the libraries,
Right.
the archives.
Look at microfiche.
Exactly, exactly. Fortunately, they're digitizing a lot of these newspapers now, so you don't have to actually go through microfiche. About 34 papers are digitized, and the Black newspapers, most of them are not yet. So that's why you'll see scenes in this book where she's going to people's basements, looking through the physical newspapers, trying to spot the clues and dig up the stories and dig up whatever hints she can find about her grandfather. I like doing that part. I like showing the process. I think it says something about her and the seriousness with which she takes this job. You know, I want this book to kind of be an homage to these young people who I think will be the ones who save us from all the foolishness, the ones who are on the front line fighting for social justice in so many areas, you know, not just around excessive force and law enforcement, but lots of the social justice issues we have in this country and other kinds of issues. The young people who are putting themselves on the line. I want to show the seriousness of them and their tenacity and their ability to get things done.
Amen.
Right. We had two real major crucibles in 2020, and one was COVID, where it's if we wanted to tell people who were too small, too young to know about it, or aren't born yet about COVID, it would be very difficult to convey because it's so otherworldly.
Isn't it? Yeah,
that
it changed our lives.
Yes. I mean, it was just.
We're still feeling the effects of COVID, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's still,
Absolutely.
people are still getting COVID. I mean, it's,
That's right.
And I'm not even just talking about it. I'm talking about.
And it's changed the way people work.
Yes.
Yes, they changed our work life.
The whole mental and physical and spiritual aspect of what we went through staying at home for so long. Now, many of us don't want to be around people anymore. You know, it takes a lot to leave the house now. So,
Yeah, and I also think some of these people who have mental issues, like all of these shootings, I think a lot of people were locked up too long without interaction with people, and they were already kind of, borderline, and they just have never really gotten back to normal.
And one thing they were able to do during COVID is to buy guns. Guns, proliferation of guns exploded during COVID. People were going like, "Oh, I'm home. Let me get a gun and practice."
Well, that's true.
And some good
people didn't know what was going to happen as far as unrest or,
Absolutely.
people didn't know, so they wanted protection. And so, a lot of things happened because of that.
Yeah.
And then with the George Floyd situation, that was the other crucible. And the major difference is that it was captured on video. The entire thing was captured on video for 7 minutes or 8. I forgot the number.
It's a good point.
We've never had a slow murder captured on video like that.
Yeah. I did some thinking about that. Thank God for video. I mean, but I can tell you, I was one of the people, with 20 years before that thought that beating that we witnessed on camera in Los Angeles of Rodney King was going to change the game, and it did not.
That's true.
Yes,
that's true.
Rodney King.
King.
I thought that. I thought now people will see what we're talking about. Now there's
I think everybody was at the time. People thought, how can you not say this is over the top brutality?
Exactly.
The man is down on he's down, and it's 10 of you all. And he's unarmed, it's just.
Yeah.
I mean, I had this conversation recently with my boyfriend. It's when you are an attorney, and especially a defense attorney, You can't just say, oh, I've lost the case because the video was there. You have to treat that video like it's one piece of evidence, but it's not the only thing.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
they were able to succeed in winning that case because they were able to say, well, you don't know what happened before the video. You don't know what happened after the video. You don't know how they got to this point. And they were able to make those points like that.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, what people saw, they were able to sow that doubt into their minds.
That's interesting. You make that point because what they did do with Derek Chauvin was to show, I think when you said this, they showed the whole thing. What happened before, what happened during, what happened. And thank God for that young lady.
Right.
Who
Who
to take
just
it.
kept, she just kept
shooting.
recording.
Yes,
kept
she
recording.
did. She's a hero.
She
Yeah.
really is. She really is, because otherwise he would have just been another unfortunate soul, you know.
That's right.
Right.
And the other thing that I'm sorry, that George Floyd did was that folks now are counting these incidents. I think it's the Washington Post is keeping a chronicle of these excessive force incidents and the number of people killed and it keeps going up, unfortunately.
It does. You know, the other thing about the Rodney King incident, this was more of a subliminal thing, or subconscious, or maybe even conscious. But, you know, there's always been, since we've been on these shores, there's always been the myth that Black men have superpowers, you know, as far as strength. And so that played a factor in the Rodney King beating, that somehow he could have withstood all those blows and still gotten up and done something to those officers. Because that, you know, that's that old, long enduring myth that Black men have super strong, you know, they're super, not superheroes, but they have superpowers in terms of strength. And so, you know, it might take 5 people to subdue them. You know, that's a long enduring myth. There's so many historical things that are part of our subconscious or conscious, you know.
Mhm.
So
And
what
then,
has been
you
the
know,
reaction to your book? How people responding to Times and Doom?
It's been primarily good. Lots of people saying that they didn't know about this kind of history. They had thought about it. You know, they weren't really, especially young people don't know about Jim Crow and how draconian the laws were for Black people and the living conditions. Lots of people saying, you know, too bad things haven't changed that much. Wow, you know, 1929. And now in 2023, we're still counting these incidents that are happening. So, and that was really what I wanted to make a point about this, that this is not a new phenomenon, that this has been happening over and over again, but we need to stop it. There's some legislation in front of the Congress right now, I keep saying Rodney King now that we brought him up, but the George Floyd Policing Act really will close some of the loopholes on how police officers can act in these incidents. I think it talks about being able to follow police officers who over and over again have these excessive force cases in their background, and then they go to one police department and then transfer to another and not know about this stuff. So there's some really positive things that could happen if we can get that George Floyd Policing Act into law.
But I did see that your reviews are good. You have a good solid 4.5 stars. That's good.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good. I mean, but when some people go like, why do we have to know about reading the newspapers, you know? Or why are they cooking, you know?
Because things didn't just start happening 20 years ago. There was a whole history of evolution of everything.
That's right.
Before the internet was even created.
You know, and I wanted, it's so true. And I wanted the young woman who's the protagonist to have a fuller life than just going through the newspaper. So she finds some friends when she goes to Birmingham. She finds new love when she goes to Birmingham, which is a surprise to her. But she still sees herself as a professional journalist, and she doesn't let that sway her from her task. and I wanted to show her courage. You know, she gets threatened when she's uncovering this story, and she's not daunted by that. In fact, I think she says, oh, her friends are saying, girl, you need to go back home now to Detroit. And she's going like, no, they are dealing with the wrong kind of Black people. These are different Black people than they dealt with before in Birmingham in 1929 or 1963 even.
Mhm.
Right. So do
Yeah.
you, that's almost 100 years. So do you, when it happened, 1929 to 2019. So
Yeah.
do you go back and forth between the time periods, or do you just have your main character, Megan, looking for the information? Is this she the central character and she's doing the research, or do you go do any of
Oh, great question.
going back and forth with your dialogue or settings?
Yeah, it's alternating chapters,
Okay.
1929 and 2019. And in the 1929 chapters, it's the grandfather, great grandfather's voice that you hear. He carries the storyline through. And
Okay.
then I try to interweave them in a fairly seamless way so that there's a connection between the old story and the new story. And then at the end, it resolves, I think, in a very touching way that is a satisfying ending, even though we know he's going to go to his death. It resolves in a way that it gives us at least some sense of closure. But the other part of the book also talks a lot about the power of community to make change. So when Megan gets to Birmingham, she gets lots of help from people who want the story to be told. You know, and that happened for me when I was doing the research. I would call and say, I'm doing my grandfather was killed, to a person. They would go like, oh, I am so sorry that happened to you. How can I help? There were so many people who offered help
Okay.
That's
in
so
doing
great
this
that you
research.
wanted to
Yeah.
help.
Yes, that's right.
That's
And
great. Did you go to Birmingham?
yeah, I've been to Birmingham many times, and I did go back again recently, just a couple of years ago, just to get wanted to make sure I was getting a feel for it. I don't, because I don't want to demonize the city, but I do think cities like Birmingham that have this legacy of involvement in racial hatred and prejudice and destruction, don't easily shed that reputation or that sense of they want to be the new South, and they are getting there, but you don't just take away a legacy of decades of hatred and reframe it with a marketing moniker. You know
Or
about
with a statue, like they did with
with the statue.
which I just found it offensive. They had the statue that they recently erected of Emmett Till, as if he was on holiday. I mean, the way I'm like, okay, a plaque, a marker would have been better, because the way they have that statue, he's going like this, like he was, it's no, that's not, and then the woman just recently died. The one
That's right.
that told
Right.
us the lie that ended
Just
up
last
getting him
month she
killed.
died. Right.
Yeah, I
That's
think
right.
she died last week, or it was
Yeah,
very recent.
it was very recently.
Yeah, so.
That soon? Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Cheryl, let
And that's why all our stories,
yeah, all of our stories need to be told. So let people know how do you have a website?
yeah. Yes, CherylHead.com.
Oh, okay, well, that's simple. You're able to get your name, not everybody can.
Yes,
So it's no
Yeah.
really initial or anything, it's just the first and last.
that's correct. That's right. All
.com.
one word.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. And her new book is called Time's Undoing, which I've already got my copy.
Yeah,
Haven't
and that's
started
my
it yet.
grandfather's actual photograph. Yeah, that's my grandfather's
Oh,
actual
okay,
photograph in
that's
the
superimposed in there. I wondered
it's
who that was
superimposed
on
in
there.
there.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a really good cover.
it
But
is a
we also
beautiful
put your
picture.
Amazon link in the chat. So I hope people
Thank
will
you.
reach out and support this book, because it sounds like a very powerful story. And one of the viewers did ask how you came up with the title, but just as you're telling the story of how this story came to be, I can kind of feel why you named it Time's Undoing.
Thank you. That's exactly why I named that. And actually the publisher thought we should change the name, and I said, no, I don't want to do it. I want to keep that name. And yeah, I hope, I'd love to talk to book clubs about it. I'm really eager to get in front of groups of people and chat about it. So call me.
Okay, well, we're at the end of our time and at the end of the show. So thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you
And
so much.
congratulations again on your book release and your success with your.
And congratulations to you guys for 500 interviews. Congratulations, you're doing a great job.
Okay, and don't forget to email me the book that you want once you decide what it is.
Okay, will do.
Okay, all right. Well,
Thank you.
well,
Have a
you're
good
welcome.
evening.
Again.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, well, we're at the end of our show. I do want to remind people next week is the Black Authors Matter TV Awards show, and you'll get to see who all the winners are. We're excited about that. Tune in next week at 7 Central and 8 Eastern, and you'll get to see an amazing show. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off for tonight.
I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.